I was having a conversation the other day with one of my employees, and I was just going over the Monday morning meetings and just some of the to-do lists of tasks we had for the week. And she just looks up at me and says, "You're so passionate about this," out of nowhere. So I looked at her and I was like, "Yeah, of course I'm passionate about this. I love what I do." And she's like, "Yeah, but like you're not like obsessed. Like I don't mean it in a weird way. Like you're passionate. Like you can tell you love what you do." And that led me into a really deep conversation. But I had to stop myself because I saw we didn't see eye to eye on that. And I said, "Yeah, but obsession can be a healthy thing if portrayed correctly." And she said, "Yeah, but no, you don't want to be like obsessed and crazy and weird." And that's where it led me to this conversation today. The difference between passion and obsession. My name is Danielle Michelle. I'm a serial entrepreneur. If you want to get to your highest achievement point and go from good to great, I love helping give tips to improve your life and get you to that next level. So let's start with, what is passion? Passion is that lust feeling. It's an emotional feeling. It's that deep, deep feeling to your core, to your soul, where you feel so lusty about something, excited. You know, you want to shout it from the rooftops. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I love to do. And you have this deep feeling of desire in you. It's the seed. Obsession is something that is an unwavering feeling that you just cannot kick. It's something that you're constantly thinking about first thing in the morning, throughout the day. It's distracting because you're just so obsessed with it. And it's an ultimate mission for you of something that you want to accomplish. There's a blurry line in there, but there is a significant difference between the two things. Now, when you hear people say that you found your passion, over 70% of people in surveys have shown that they found something that they're passionate about. It might not be something that they do every day that makes them a monetary value, but they have something in their life that they're contributing to or spending some kind of time or interest in that leads them to the feeling of fulfillment from a certain extent of passion. And that's a great feeling that not everybody has, but majority of the world can name something at least that they're passionate about. How much time they're spending in that is a different story. That's where the numbers get smaller. Passion is something that is the seed, right? It's the seed, it's the start, it's what sparks the fire, it's what provides you with that interest. It catches your attention, it captures your interest, and you just want to start maybe a new journey on that path. If you want to find out more, you start dabbling, you're interested, and everybody's in the background as cheerleaders like, "Yeah, you got this. You have your passion now. Go figure that out. I'm so happy for you that you found that." Obsession, on the other hand, is not something that's often celebrated by others. Just like the conversation that I had earlier yesterday with one of my employees, that's quite frequently the conversation and the feedback that you'll get from others when they feel that you're obsessed. It's unrelatable. It feels unnatural. It's too much. Calm down. It's all you talk about. It's all you think about. That's the tree, right? So you have passion, that's the seed, the spark, and then you have obsession, and that's where the tree starts to grow because you don't let it go. You become relentless. You become obsessed, right? Like, how do you think great achievers achieve success? Passion is always what starts the conversation, the interest. But without obsession, you're never going to separate yourself from good to great. Passion fuels hustle, and hustle builds the dreams. So without passion, you'd have no interest to get started. But that relentless, unwavering feeling that you cannot kick, if that obsession, is what leads the great to be ultra successful, the hyper-focused, the target that they see at all points throughout their day. Some of the greatest success stories were built on some of the most passionate and obsessed individuals. Elon Musk, his passion was revolutionizing the industry in space and electric cars and renewable energy. He's most notably known for being an extremely relentless hard worker, working anywhere from 80 to 100 hours a week. Tesla became the world's most valuable car company. SpaceX redefined space exploration. And he's a leading voice in renewable energy and AI. His obsession with solving humanity's biggest challenges is what led him to these great successes. Oprah Winfrey. She's known to be a passionate storyteller and helping others through self-improvement journeys. Oprah was obsessed with creating high-value content that resonated with others to help them with self-improvement and getting them out of self-doubt to bringing them to inspire them to greatness. She became the first Black female billionaire. MJ, Michael Jordan, most notably known for his game, right? Competition, his favorite thing. He was obsessed with competition. Everyone would interview him and ask him constantly, what makes you great? What makes you different? And he said that he just had this desire to compete and win. He was absolutely hands down obsessed. He's known for his win at all costs mentality. He's known for being one of the best basketball players of all time, winning 6 NBA championships. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was obsessed with creating innovative, groundbreaking technology in an artistic fashion. He was obsessed with being meticulous, being a perfectionist. His focus was to always push his team past limits that they thought that they had and groundbreak into new realm of innovation. He has a legendary company that he built at Apple, most notably known for the iPhone, the iPad, and the MacBook. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is obsessed with customer satisfaction and innovation. He is known for reinvesting profit back into the company. Instead of taking out short-term gains, he focused on long-term growth. Amazon is the largest e-commerce platform in the history, making Jeff Bezos one of the richest men to ever exist. Now let's take a moment to process that. Think about all of those great leaders. If they were just driven by passion, they wouldn't get as far as they did because they wouldn't have pushed the limits when they were told no. They wouldn't have shut off at the end of the day. They wouldn't have gone further on the weekends. They wouldn't have said no to all the social events because they were obsessed with seeing progress. They wouldn't have made the financial decisions to invest back in their businesses if they didn't do that. They wouldn't have waken up super early in the morning to practice when nobody else is practicing. They would have done what everybody else is doing and been part of the normal group. But that's not what made them successful. See, I believe that when passion meets obsession, that equals impact. I'll say it again. Passion plus obsession equals impact. Of course, we'll put the disclaimer on here that when we talk about this, we're thinking in mind with healthy obsessions and passions. There's always another level where you can become too obsessed and too passionate or have the wrong focus on what you're obsessed and passionate about. In this conversation today, I'm talking about things that make individuals greater. Impacts and missions that fundamentally groundbreak and change things in history. To become a leader like that, to separate yourself from good to great, you need to be both of those two things. When I look to hire employees, one of the skills that I always look for is obsession. I tell other employees that I looked for that when I hired you, and they laugh. They don't understand it. Maybe they don't even realize it to the extent that I'm looking for it. But when I find somebody that's stuck on something, that wants to know more, that does their due diligence, that digs into it, that comes back and asks questions, that then a week later comes back and asks questions and is still on the same topic because they don't feel like they have an in-depth knowledge fully, or their answer is not fully fulfilled, that's an obsession, right? They're obsessed with finding out the true core answer to that. And that's something that I look for as a winning quality to separate great from good. Now, my own personal scenario, I'll give you an example of something that I deployed obsession in my life without realizing it because of the personality that I have. If I was not obsessed and I did not have an obsessive personality, my father would not be here living above ground today. So about 6 years ago, my father was really sick in the hospital. He couldn't get a clear diagnosis. He was in supposedly some of the best hospitals in New York. And after tests and tests and tests, he finally gets out and we go to oncology and we meet with one of the top doctors there in oncology, and he tells us, I'd like you guys to take a seat. I have some news for you. We went through your PET scan and I found a whole bunch of hot spots all throughout your body. I took tests with your urine, I took tests for your blood, and we've done a bunch of analysis behind the scenes. We've determined that you have cancer. And they told him that he had something called myeloma cancer, which is it's a more rare blood cancer, and it's a very small chance of living. There's no stage 4 for myeloma cancer. It only goes to stage 3. So when we asked what stage he was at, they told me it was stage 3. It was just myself and my father in that meeting. I'll never forget it. It's clear as day. I mean, my heart sunk. I felt like I was swallowing tennis balls. I was getting punched in the stomach, about to get hit by a truck. All of the things, as just like was the sound of the noise was just like echoing in my head. And it was the worst, one of the worst days of my life for sure, hearing that news. My father is someone I've always looked up to greatly. He's been a great leader to me. He's been a great father. And he's someone that has deployed these things and skills that I'm lucky enough to see in an individual in my childhood. We left that meeting that day, and they told my father that he had an appointment next week to come back to start chemo. I asked the doctor how long he had to live, and they said no longer than 6 months. Whole world stopped at that point. Everything was put on hold, and I had to figure out a way to have a solution to this. Now, I can't cure cancer. I'm a CPA by trade. I do numbers. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business person. But I know that I want to make sure that this is the truth, and is this the true answer, and what's the best treatment we can get? So my father went and left, and he called up his family and let them know the news. He sent out some emails and some messages. We told my sister, my family, and everybody took the news heavy, but came through the process of trying to understand what to do next so that we can accept this news. I wouldn't accept the news. Call it relentless, call it rogue, but I just could not accept the news. So what I did was, of course, we got a second opinion, and that's a natural thing for people to recommend, get a second opinion in such a big thing, and we heard the same thing again. Spoke to all the doctors there, multiple hours, and I just was not getting anything besides the same answer. So I looked up for hours and hours at night, and I just literally pulled almost 3 all-nighters in a row to the point where I was physically sick because I wasn't sleeping. Maybe a half an hour nap there, half an hour here, working full time with kids at that point too. And I just could not accept that this was going to be the path for him. He has no spleen. So if you don't know anything about not having a spleen, if you don't have a spleen, that is a basis for your immune system. And if you do not have a spleen and you do something like chemo or even get as much as a bad cold, you could potentially put your immune system into an array. Your white blood cell count will go skyrocket and you could get an infection, possibly die. So there was not going to be 6 months for him once he started chemo because his body and his spleen was not prepared to handle that. So after 3-4 days of just nonstop hours of research, complete obsession, focus, not listening to anything else, not talking to anything else, putting my life on hold and just focusing on the mission that was there, I found this doctor at Sloan Kettering in New York City that was known to be the best doctor in the whole world. He came from Australia. He was an international doctor in myeloma. His appointments were over 6 months out, which is kind of contradicting to the lifespan that was there, but you could not get an appointment with him. I called up the next day, I researched him, I researched the disease, and I begged them on the phone and just sobbed and begged and sobbed and begged, and I just couldn't get anywhere with them. I was actually 9 months pregnant when this happened, and throughout these days in this process, I actually had my second child and continued on this journey with him with obsession. So even though I was so excited, my soul was so full for my baby, I could not accept this news from my father. So my obsession went to my father, my energy went to him in this mission. Every day I would call up multiple times a day. Hey, Susie, it's Danielle again. I know you're so busy. How'd it go yesterday? I know you said you had a hectic day. Oh, it was good. Things worked out. Now we started getting a report. I'll call later in the day. I know you guys are busy. Just checking in. How's lunch? Danielle again, here I am. I would call before the end of the day. Hey, Susie, just calling again. I know you have me in mind. I just want to say on the top of your mind, if there's any cancellations that come in or, if you ever happen to have an extra 15 minutes, let me know. We'll be there in a split second, as quick as we can possibly physically get there. By the second or third day, Susie got me in with my father. And we slipped right past those 6 months because I developed a rapport with her. I was obsessed. She heard my passion through the phone. That formula was portrayed. It was received. It was appreciated. It was empathetically understood. There was sympathy involved. And that whole formula led us to that meeting at Sloan Kettering with the world's best doctor in myeloma cancer, who travels the world, who constantly educates, and he was the one. We went through 3 months of retests on him, and never started chemo, and after 3 months of retests with the best doctor in the world, we found out that what my father really had was not myeloma cancer, and nor was it cancer at all. They re-diagnosed him with something called IgG4, which is a rare autoimmune disease in your body. You can live for a way longer time with something like that. It's a chronic disease, but it is not life-threatening if it's unless you have some kind of flare-up or if it's untreated. But under monitoring and care and knowledge, it is something that he could live with for the rest of his life. 6 years later, my father's here on what we could call borrowed time. If I wasn't obsessed with finding out his mission and helping him through this process and accepting the first answer and even the second answer, he would not be here today. We did goodbye videos, all the things in the few weeks that this all happened. And the 3 months when we were waiting for the results was some of the most unsettling time I've ever had in my life. So I understand from that extent how families feel, and my complete empathy goes out to you, because I know some of you that might be listening to this were not as lucky to have the same results that I have had. And with obsession and passion is not the cure to cancer, but in my situation, it proved good and did help prolong his life. So my point is, it's not the answer to everything. But if you mix the formula of the two, passion and obsession, it is going to result in some sort of impact. And that's something that cannot be ignored.